Hey, welcome, Born Bearded. I'm Dave, and today we're going to be getting into coloring or dyeing your beard. This will pertain to all beards, but with so many of us with gray beards, it may be something that you're considering. So let's get through the intro and let's talk about it. So you're considering dyeing your beard. Coloring or dyeing your beard is not something that I typically suggest for a majority of us men due to the amount of chemicals that are in the dyes that can really damage your beard hairs. Now, there are very few instances where I think coloring your beard could be beneficial or at least be okay. If this is something that you're truly considering, talk to your barber and do some research on some of the products that are out there. And because I don't dye my beard, the only information that I can really give you on this is the research that I've done, being that I have considered it in the past. And if this is something you've decided to do, I got a couple precautions that I want to throw out there to you guys so there's in the back of your mind when you're doing your research to kind of help you, but those are going to be around towards the end of the video. But first, let's discuss a few different types of color or dye for your beard. There are a few different types of beard dye that you're probably going to wind up seeing or looking into. One is a henna beard dye. The henna beard dye is an organic dye that has no harsh chemicals in it. It can last up to about 4 weeks, but it is going to fade a little bit during washes throughout that 4 weeks. Again, most henna does not have harsh chemicals in it, but the trade-off for that is it doesn't have a long shelf life to it. It's not going to stay in the beard for long. It won't last nearly as long as most hair dyes and or beard dyes that you may come across. The second beard dye that I've come across is a temporary beard dye. And there are some major differences in a temporary beard dye and a permanent beard dye besides just the amount of time they'll stay in your beard. Things such as a temporary beard dye will coat the outside layer of your beard, and it's one of those that you're not going to want to wash very often with shampoos or even with a beard wash, because it will wash out that color, being that's just on the outside of the hair. As it fades, because it is temporary, you're going to have to reapply this every 2 to 3 weeks, and especially for the outgrowth when it starts coming out of the face, you're going to have to recover that as well. Now, keep in mind, the temporary beard dye will not typically work well in red, silver, or gray beards because, as we've mentioned in one of my previous videos about gray hair, that cuticle on the outside of the hairs is already thin and somewhat damaged and is already prone to drying out. But on top of all that, it doesn't really even absorb water well, which is why you tend to get that dry feeling in your gray beards. So a temporary beard dye for your gray beard is only going to give you partial coverage, and it's not going to take away all of the gray color. In order to get that full dyed color, you're going to have to go to something a little more harsh, which is what's coming up next. The third dye that we're going to talk about is the permanent hair dye or the permanent beard dye. And that sounds exactly of what it is. It is a permanent hair dye. Now, with the permanent hair dye, unlike the temporary, this does not set on the outside of the beard hairs, but it actually penetrates the beard hair, and it stains that beard hair with the color of the dye that you had put in. Being that that dye has to do a little extra work, the chemicals in these beard dyes are a little harsher and can do a bit more damage to your beard. And I'm not saying that you're going to dye your hair once and then all of a sudden your beard's going to start breaking off. It could be fine for a good while. The problem with it is, especially with the permanent hair dye, is if it messes up, there's only one thing you can really do, and that's to get a dye stripper, which is adding even more chemicals to your beard. Let's back up just a little bit. If you like the color and everything's going good with it, you still have to reapply as the outgrowth comes out. Otherwise, it's going to look two-toned, and that will have to be done every 3 to 4 weeks. Now, from the research that I've done, a permanent beard dye will almost always have a negative impact on your beard. Now that we've discussed the 3 types of beard dyes that I've researched, let's get into where I think that it might be okay for you to use a specific beard dye. But mind you, that list is very limited. So let's say, for instance, you have a lighter brown beard, but up in here, you have a little bit of blonde hairs, and it makes your beard not seem full or might seem patchy. At that point is where I would think it'd be okay to add a little bit of the brown dye or whatever color you would need there to kind of help fill in those gaps so you can be happy with the shape of your beard and to show that those hairs are actually there. Some of those blonde hairs get so light you can't even see them unless the sun's hitting them. So I can definitely see somebody using one of these hair dyes to help get your beard look fuller and not look so patchy. Now, with that being said, the only thing that I could really suggest for you if you're planning on using a hair dye is if you have a short beard. Because that hair is more fresh, it's shorter, it's closer to the skin, that those beard hairs are getting a lot more of the nutrients that they need to stay healthy. So there's harsh chemicals that are going in there that may be able to be balanced out with the natural oils that are coming into your beard to where it's not drying out your beard so bad. Now, if you're starting to get into the point where you have a medium or longer beard, that's where the hair can typically suffer because at the ends of our beard's hair, they're not getting as much nutrients from our face that it is on the top side of our beards because it's further away from the source and it has to travel down that beard hair. So the chemicals from those dyes can get into the lower portions of our beards and can really damage that hair there where it dries out so bad it can cause breakage, it can cause frizz, and it can cause it to be extremely dry regardless of what you put in. And that is mainly with a permanent hair dye. And again, even if you put it on a medium to a long beard and say that it's fine, we still have to reapply every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the product that you purchase, even the box dyes that you wind up picking up from your local box store. So long story short, the medium to long beards don't have those natural defenses in the lower portion of your beard. Now, I will say that if coloring your beard, you're not happy with the way the color of your beard is or the flow of the different colors in your beard that you have are working for you, and it's either that or shave your beard, I would much rather you add some dye to your beard and get it to where you're happy with it and you're happy with the way that it looks. Now, where I don't suggest that you use hair dyes, whether it be temporary or permanent, that would be in a gray beard. As I mentioned before, gray has a hard time absorbing those dyes and getting you the right color. Gray almost has a natural resistance to hair dyes. And in order to get that color to work, you'd have to use a stronger permanent hair dye in order for it to work with that gray beard. So instead, I would say if you have a gray beard, embrace it. Embrace those grays in your beard. There are so many men out there that actually try to get their beards to go gray. So if you have it, somebody envies you for having those gray beards. And I know for many of us, the sign of a gray beard kind of hits us as, oh, we're getting old. But anymore, I don't see it as getting old. I see it as more of distinguished. So if you accept that gray, find the right beard shape for your face, and get that style that you're looking for, you can have a majestic gray beard. And you might be saying, well, Dave, that sounds great, but I've decided I want to dye my beard and I want to give it a shot. And if that's the case, I have a couple suggestions for you prior to starting the dyeing process of your beard. First and foremost, I am not a doctor, but from the research that I've done, I found that many men are allergic to the chemicals that are in these hair dyes. And yes, that even includes the box dyes. With a severe enough allergic reaction, it can cause chemical burns on your face and cause some major damage, which will not only just affect your beard, but it can affect your skin under your beard that can take many months to recover from. Throughout my research, I've seen many horror stories of men that are completely chemical burned on the beard path on their face. And it looks so irritating and painful that I want to try to help relieve that possibility with you guys by giving you a way to test to see if your skin is allergic to this. But even this test is not going to completely rule it out. So what you'll want to do is if you're getting the box dye, you're going to want to get those 2 tubes out. You're going to want to mix a little bit of each of the products together like you're mixing the dye and put that on the thin part of the inside of your elbow, just a little bit there. Let's wait for a few minutes. I would say up to 5-10 minutes and see and take it off and then see if there's any irritation, if you feel any heavy burning or if there's any kind of welting there. If there is, there's a good chance that you are allergic to some of the products that are in that beard dye. And at that point, I would use extreme caution when adding this product to your beard. Because yes, we're not supposed to put this on our face. It's supposed to go onto the hair. But remember, those chemicals will travel throughout the hair. And I don't know how many of you actually dyed the top of your hair, but it's kind of inevitable that you're going to get some of that hair color onto your skin, even under your beard. Now, you've done all the tests, everything has come up good, you're not having any kind of allergic reaction, and you think you're good to go on the hair dye. Now, you're going to want to make sure you're getting the right dye for your typical hair color. You're going to want to get the right color of hair dye for your color of beard and for your natural beard color. Not doing so can cause that beard to turn orange or even give you hints of green. And finally, if you decided to do the color, let's find a color that matches your beard somewhat, maybe on the little lighter side. You really don't typically want to go darker with that because it's not going to look natural. So basically, you don't want to have your brown hair and your brown patches in your beard and then just do the whole thing in a solid black. It's not going to look natural. You're not going to be happy with the look. And depending on whether that's temporary or it's permanent, it could take you a good amount of time to get that out of your beard. For those of you that don't have a gray beard and your beard is a light brown, blonde, one of the colors that's typically easier to color, I would suggest starting off with the temporary color and see how that works for you. The chemicals are still in there, but not as strong and as robust as it would be for the permanent. Because remember, that's just going to set on the outside of the hair, on the outside of the cuticle, where the permanent absorbs all the way through the hair. And finally, one more thing out there for my brothers with the gray beards. Keep in mind that your gray beard is not the same as the rest of your beard, especially if you have patches. The gray hairs are going to resist temporary dyes. And just be safe with what you are using, because adding those chemicals to your gray beard can be catastrophic to your gray beard. So I'm just going to throw out some encouragement for those of you that have the gray beard that's about the medium to the long length. Rock that gray beard. If you're having trouble with your gray beard and you would like some suggestions, or would you like some tips on some of the issues you may be having in trying to keep it maintained or try to keep it brushed out, please leave me a comment or leave me an email, and I'll be happy to get back to you on any suggestions that I could give you. I think that's going to take me to the end of the video, fellas. If you like this video and you'd like to show support for the channel, the best way that you can do that is hit that like and subscribe button. For those of you that are subscribed, I want to say thank you very much. I really do appreciate your support. And as always, if you have any suggestions for content that you would like to see in the future, feel free to leave it in the comments. Until next time, fellas, stay strong, stay healthy, stay positive. Once again, I'm Dave, and I was born bearded. Have a great night.